Growing up in rural Germany, I heard many stories. My Oma, grandmother, would tell me all sorts of stories, from ones about her life during World War II to folk legends that she had heard when she was growing up. Her house always had an overwhelming smell of incense and perfume. However, I didn't mind too much. I always loved getting to hear stories from a seasoned storyteller, until I heard the story of the Matchstick Men. My Oma told me the story somewhere between 1975 and 1980. One day, as I took a break from working at my grandparents' house, I went outside for a drink. Upon entering, my Oma says, "Would you like to hear a new story?" I figured it was a little random, but I obliged. I think we can all afford to stop and hear a story every once in a while. "What is this story called, Oma?" I said, expecting a rather dull answer, as many of her stories' titles were rather lame. "This story is called The Matchstick Man," she said, as she took a seat. A long time ago, in Germany, there was a soldier. One day, as the soldier was out on patrol, he saw a man standing at the edge of the forest clearing. The soldier calls out, "Hey, you there, what is your business here?" But he gets no answer. He starts moving closer to the man, when he starts to notice red in the grass. As he gets closer, the man turns around, revealing a bloody knife in his grip, and two missing eyeballs, which are on the ground in front of him. The soldier also notices the smell of singed hair and burnt sulphur. The man grabs the soldier by the shoulders and starts to speak, but it is revealed that the man's tongue is also gone. However, the soldier begins to hear the man's voice inside his head. What was he saying? I'm about to tell you, if you'll listen. The man says, "In the woods and in your home, never ever be alone. In the night or in the day, he will never go away. Though you'll try as hard as you can't escape the Matchstick Man." And then the man pulled out a revolver, stuck it under his chin, and shot himself. The soldier starts screaming for help, not for the man, but for himself, because as he stared into that man's empty eye sockets, he saw him. He was tall and thin, impossibly thin. His hands were long and bony too. He was as black as the night. He had no eyes or mouth, but he did have sunken-in pits where eyes would be. His head was not round at all. It looked the way the head of a match does after you strike it. Suddenly, at night, the soldier would become restless. He would have visions of himself doing the most evil of acts. Every dream would end with the face of the man he met in the woods, combined with that terrible chant which haunted him. Some nights, he would awake to see the Matchstick Man standing over his bed, just watching him. It was as if he were saying, "We can go whenever you want. I can make all the visions end if you come with me." The soldier would always wake his bunkmates with screams of, "I won't go with you, you fucking monster," and the like. However, only the soldier could see the Matchstick Man. He would say, "Can't you see him? In the corner of the room." To which his fellow soldiers would always call him crazy and delirious. But soon, other soldiers started seeing him too. The more people talked about the Matchstick Man, the more others would start to see him. It got to the point where no one was sleeping. They would go for days at a time, with nothing but a few minutes of fitful rest in between the long hours spent evading the Matchstick Man. The soldier lived like this for years, even after he was discharged from the army. He didn't tell his family for the longest time, because he figured out that the Matchstick Man was only visible to the people who had heard about him. Eventually, that soldier committed suicide one night in his shed, so that no one could see him do it. It is said that the Matchstick Man watched him the entire time, up until he pulled the trigger. That was unlike any other story my Oma had ever told me. I was speechless that she even knew such a story. All I could say was, "I guess I need to get back to work," before heading back out to the barn. As I worked, I realised my Oma was telling me about my grandfather. He was also a soldier, and several years before, he had also committed suicide in their shed. That night, I had a dream. It was me, alone in the woods. The smell of burning matches plagued the entire forest. Out of nowhere, a family of people appeared. There was a mum, a dad, and a very young girl. They were saying, "Who are you? What do you want? Please leave us alone. Please." I looked down and I saw a can of gasoline in my hand, and a lighter. I tried as hard as I could, but I couldn't stop myself from pouring it on them and then throwing the lit lighter at them. I couldn't stop from watching as they were burned alive, as they screamed, "Why? Why? Why?" I couldn't stop myself from laughing as the skin was falling off them. Then I woke up, and he was there, over my bed. I couldn't scream though, I could only watch. Then he spoke to me, without having to say any words at all. He just held out his hand, as a silent offer for me to take it. Before I knew it, I found myself reaching up and grabbing it. Suddenly, the Matchstick Man spoke again, but this time I heard his voice. Do you know what he told me? He told me that the only way to stop the visions was to tell the world about him. He said that if I did, I wouldn't be plagued by those horrible visions any longer. That made me think, but I don't have a way to tell many people. They will all think I'm crazy. To which he replied, after a while, they won't think you're the crazy one. And just like that, I was back in my bed. The visions did not stop for a while, because I didn't want anyone else to have to suffer through them. But eventually, it became too much. I started to spread the word of the Matchstick Man. This is what this post is about. I knew that here, it would get the exposure so that I would never have to have one of those horrible dreams again. I'm sorry, but I cannot take it anymore. Just do as I did, and you will be all right. I will leave you with one final thought. Do you smell something burning?